AITA for minimizing contact with my parents because they are housing my brother. I, 30M, was with my ex-girlfriend from the time we were 16 to the time we were 23. During this time, my girlfriend and I were discussing marriage and the possibility of kids. By the time we were 21, we were trying for kids and it was always a fail. We went to the doctor about our fertility issues and I was told that I was the problem. I was informed that I was infertile and it was a rare possibility that I could ever have kids. My girlfriend and I were crushed, but she was persistent that we could keep trying and if it continues to fail we could look into adoption. I was happy and thankful for this as it finally gave me hope. We decided that if I couldn't get her pregnant by the time we were 25 we'd look into adoption. We tried for 2 more years and when she was 23 she told me that she was pregnant. I was ecstatic. This excitement lasted for a good 5 months until my ex revealed that she doubted the baby was mine. By this point, she was crying and told me that she slept with my brother, 33M, around the time she got pregnant and she was positive it was his. She was 1000% correct, the baby was not mine. It was my brother's. They both apologized to me, but I was beyond betrayed. To make it worse, their apologies didn't mean jack shit because they had another child together as well, but by this time I had already gone no contact with him. In late January, my ex unfortunately passed away due to a car accident and she was pregnant with their 3rd child. I guess my brother is not coping well enough. He asked our parents if they'd be willing to allow him and my nephews to move in with them because he was struggling to care for them. My parents told me this as we live pretty close to each other. They told me exactly that and that they were considering it. I was upset by this and told them that my nephews were my brother's responsibility and weren't theirs. I said that he shouldn't have had kids if he didn't know how to handle them. My parents told me this as we live pretty close to each other. They told me exactly that and that they were considering it. I was upset by this and told them that my nephews were my brother's responsibility and weren't theirs. I said that he shouldn't have had kids if he didn't know how to handle them. My parents told me that they weren't asking me and were telling me and just wanted to give me a heads up because they know I come over to visit them often and they didn't want me to be uncomfortable. I was still upset and just informed them that they wouldn't have to worry about me visiting them anytime soon and hung up. They tried calling me again, but I didn't pick up. This happened about 2 weeks ago and my brother and nephews are living with my parents as of now. Since then I haven't had any contact with my parents and I haven't returned any of their calls. My parents showed up at my house around noon yesterday and told me that they were hurt I haven't come to visit or returned their calls. They said that they never meant to hurt me and that they were just trying to help their son. I told them that I understood them wanting to help my nephews and my brother and I can't control who they house. I then told them that if they were hurt I couldn't change that and I was sorry if they were, but I have no interest in visiting or taking calls from them as long as my brother and nephews are there. I told them that they're welcome to come and visit me when they want, but I'll no longer do the same. My mom started crying and told me that I was punishing them for wanting to help their son and asked me to just see it from their perspective. They left after a while and it pains me to see my mom cry, but I'm not sure if I did anything wrong. Been hanging out with someone my BF used to F*** for a year without knowing. My boyfriend, 41M, and I, 34F, I've been dating and hanging out with another couple for over a year. They are very sweet and I enjoy both of their company. This evening when we were hanging out around the house having some drinks, the lady of the couple made a comment that made me think my boyfriend and them used to hook up. I asked him, he brushed off the question but basically confirmed that they did. I'm not angry that they used to hook up, but since we've been hanging out for so long I do think it's a little strange that he didn't let me know. When I brought this up to him he said, "Why does it matter?" I tried to explain it just would have been nice to know, and if he were in my shoes he might feel differently. I ended up leaving because we weren't getting anywhere with the conversation and I didn't want to be there any longer. I don't think this is a breakup fight, but am I overreacting? Obviously in a small town everyone hooks up. My point was that I just would have liked to know since he knows about all of the people that I've been with. AITA for kicking my GF out after she called me a crybaby for crying over my dead niece? I don't know where to even start with this. I met my now ex-GF 4 years ago in college. Until now, she seemed like the type of woman I would want to marry. Extremely kind, genuine, and generally a joy to be around. My big sister and her husband had a daughter at the beginning of our relationship. I couldn't be more happy to be an uncle. She was the cutest thing in the world to me. I tried to be that cool uncle to her and would always try to find time for her. My sister would regularly bring her over to my place for me to babysit when she had something going on. My GF, to my knowledge, also seemed to get along fine with her and wouldn't be against babysitting her with me. The best moment I shared with her was when my sister showed me a drawing my niece made about me in kindergarten. I was literally on the verge of tears seeing that. A year ago, my world turned upside down when my sister gave me a call crying. That one sentence still rings in my head from time to time. She told me she was diagnosed with leukemia. To say I was devastated would be an understatement. The past year was tough for all of us. I spent most of my free time with my sister and brother-in-law in the hospital. Seeing that poor girl with all those tubes attached to her broke my heart. I would regularly bring over balloons and make those balloon animals for her. I learned how to make those while working at a carnival when I was young. As a result, I spent less time with my GF. She seemed like she understood until her cancer grew worse. From Saturday to Sunday, I was either in the hospital or was drinking myself to sleep. One day my GF just seemed to ignore me on our 3rd anniversary. I bought her flowers and a cake and made her a card. My GF, on the other hand, didn't get me anything. I pressed her about it, and that's when she said something that probably was a sign of what was to come. She just told me, "Well, it doesn't seem like you care, so why should I get something for someone who cares more about a child that's going to die anyway?" I don't know what she was expecting. Long story short, I threatened to kick her out and to tell everyone I knew, including my sister, who was a close friend of hers, what she just told me. She apologized and told me she wasn't thinking straight and something like this would never happen again. I eventually forgave her and we moved on. My niece passed away last week and it's been the worst period of my life. I've been crying myself to sleep every day and have been spending a lot of time with my sister to console her. Something that caught me off guard, though, is that my GF seemed a bit too happy at the news of her passing. She just smiled and said, "I'm so happy she isn't suffering anymore and is in a much better place now," with a big grin on her face. Yesterday, I overheard her talking with one of her friends over the phone. I just came home from work and I guess she didn't hear me walk in. I just heard a real man wouldn't cry unless it's his child dying. That caught me off guard and I kept on listening. She said some more awful things about me being a crybaby and how I shouldn't be so attached to a kid that isn't mine and so on. I loudly coughed to get her attention and just saw the life draining from her face. She tried the whole "let me explain" BS and I just told her to pack what's needed and I'll get her dad to come pick her up. After a solid hour of begging, she finally gave up and packed her things into a suitcase. Before leaving, she tried spitting at me, but just ended up spitting on herself. Her mom called me a few hours later begging me to give her a second chance. I know I shouldn't have said this, but I just told her to go fuck herself and her mentally unstable daughter. I emptied half a bottle of Jack Daniels that night and went to bed. I woke up today with texts from my sister. She told me my ex told her everything that happened and understood me kicking her out, but I should consider giving her a second chance. She told me my ex seemed sincere in her apology to her. She asked what Lily would want, my niece. That kind of broke me. My niece loved my GF and would always run to her and ask her to play Barbie with her. I feel like I shouldn't be upset if my sister forgave her, but at the same time, I feel hurt by her calling me a crybaby. Before the diagnosis, I'd never really cried in front of her and her comments hurt me deeply. I feel like I can never open up to anyone again, let alone her. Am I being irrational here? Should I forgive her? AITA? For finding someone else when wife opened our relationship? Advice needed. I, 29M, and my wife, 30F, have been together for 7 years and married for 4. Last year, she came up with the idea of open relationship to try out new things. I said it's not something comfortable for me and would like to stay monogamous. It felt weird because it came out of nowhere. We were doing good and planning to build a family together. After my reply, she insisted a lot. In the end, I decided to give it a try. Here are the boundaries she set. You should always prioritize the spouse instead of the other partner. Always use protection. Do not bring the partner to the shared house. Do not form overly emotional connections. I told her I am not sure if I can do some of these things. I am an emotional person, though I love the physical part too. She said it's okay, I will be able to do it, and it's hard for men to form emotional relationships in such cases anyways. She found a partner quickly and easily. My wife was my first relationship partner, so I was not confident in myself. I did not have great chances when I was in my 20s. Eventually, after clearing out most of my work, I decided to try finding a partner in my spare time. Surprisingly, I was flocked with interest from younger or around my age women. I knew maturing and aging did a great job for me, but not to this extent. I started talking to multiple people, but decided to go ahead with only one of them. When I shared this information with my wife, she seemed surprised but congratulated me. She said she is shocked how beautiful this woman is, and I was able to get her. It has been 10 months since finding a partner, but the more I got to know them and spent time with them, we formed an emotional connection together. This woman is aware of my situation and respects my boundaries. I realized I lost emotional and physical connection with my wife over time. I know one of the boundaries were about emotional connections and prioritizing the spouse, but I told her I was not sure if I could comply with some of these. I had a difficult talk with my wife last week about my situation. She immediately offered closing the relationship and going to couples counseling, but I am not interested, to be honest. She feels no different than a friend for me, and I am afraid I build resentment for her due to the open relationship situation. I told her it would just extend the misery for me, and I would like to have a divorce. She flipped and cried, saying I am throwing everything away just for a fling. AITA here? Update: AITA for finding someone else when wife opened our relationship. It will be short update. I gave her the divorce papers my lawyer drafted this week, and it did not go well. She refused separating amicably and said she'll make the process as painful as possible for me. She left the house after taking her important belongings, and I have no idea where she is. My lawyer told me it would take about 8 to 9 months at best for that kind of case to be concluded. He also told me there would be no problem of seeing each other after his divorce process started. However, we decided to limit the physical contact with the other woman for now, and she agreed it would be best for a smoother divorce process. House is my premarital assets, and only shared/marital assets we have are joint saving and investment accounts. We also have our own account/investment accounts, which is subjected to asset sharing. I will be busy handling divorce and conflicts for the rest of the year. What a headache, especially when we could separate amicably by dividing the assets. That is all the update. A busy year awaits me, but I am sure I will be fine. As for my relationship with the other woman, there is no guarantee it'll continue, but you do not know if you do not try.